It's 2 o'clock. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And have roll call. We've got Burke here, Chief's here, Sheriff's absent, Jerome's present, and Rocky Seals is present. Okay, board may discuss and consider and take appropriate actions on the following items. Discuss item number 4, discuss and review remaining recommendations from the 911 Management Authority for December 19th meeting in Tulsa, including the 10-year budget plan, local and office costs, and MSAG, Master Street Agreement Guide, and the ALI, Automated Location Identifier Database Cost. Also review additional requirements. Okay, that's a lot. Budget is still in process, so I'm going to, after I make my discussion, we'll table action on the budget because of some changes that occurred. But what happened last week was I did a follow-up with Daryl because I had sent information on requests that they asked, and then he fired back. He said, well, he wasn't happy with what RNS had reported, and that there was no 98% accuracy that he's requiring be done. And so then RNS Digital's point of view, because I fired back to RNS Digital and I said, what's the story? And he says, well, here's the story. The deal is 98% accuracy is only on the data that I'm able to acquire. And I get the database, I get the information from the post office and the telephone people. And if their data is correct, then my data will merge with that data. I have no idea if whose data is correct. He said it's not, this is something that Oklahoma is initiating. He said it's not done elsewhere. And he said, I will comply with that statement, but he said it's going to be hard to evaluate and identify what is, and what is, where is that 98% accuracy. I don't know on your folks, but when I go to the post office, I get other people's mail in my box. So I know other people are getting my mail. We're good enough to put it back in the inbox to be so that it goes to where it's going. That's what we do. Or we take it to the postmaster, hey, this was put on our box incorrectly, and it gets redistributed. I don't know where that falls in with the 98% accuracy. Okay? So I said, fine. Well, he'll come up with another adjustment to the initial one that he's initiated. And in my plan, I had not, there were some numbers that he did not see on the deployment plan, and he said, you need to have these numbers in there. And I said, well, I don't know where these numbers are. He says, Roger County's got these numbers. And I says, okay. So I have to use Rogers County's numbers because that's the closest numbers. Well, the numbers that you had in our mission critical statement were extremely excessive for cost per digital mapping, for example. And since Roger County's coming up with these numbers, I don't agree. I don't have confidence in the numbers that were presented. And so I said, I'll work on getting real numbers I'll approach AT&T to see exactly what they're going to charge, because he said these are government charges that are there, that happen. I was scheduled to have a meeting. John has been helpful in working with AT&T, and we got a meeting that's going to be on the books coming down. But the other thing that came down, also surprisingly, because Coffeyville price was based on an Izzy Net that's in Kansas that would communicate with an Izzy Net that's in Oklahoma. That was the whole deal. And it was hovered around that. Well, he was unaware last Wednesday, come back and he says, well, I said, we got the Izzy Net. And he said, well, there's no Izzy Net in Tulsa. There is nothing established. And that was something that we were unaware of. And that's part of what makes Next Generation work, that provides that service, the assistant providing that service. And what they have is tandem lines. Trunk lines go down, tandem lines, and tandems are basically switches that reroute the calls where they need to go to come back. And these calls, these rerouting calls, there's a tariff that's attached to them, both from Oklahoma and receiving them in Kansas. So there's two costs that are coming up involved in this, undefined amount. So don't know there. But that was something that just popped up. And he said, well, there is none. I said, well, everybody's of the notion, and I think the misnomer was that we were sitting here in a meeting and Rogers County turns around to dispatch. Claremore says, well, we have Next Generation. And but they have Next Generation Limited. They don't have full-blown next Generation. And I don't know how that's occurring. But because Coffeyville has the Izzy Nets, Kansas has the Izzy Nets, it's working there. Okay, that was something that says, okay, that's something new. And then he said that we have to do testing. There's a project manager service that also has to be initiated, that initiates letters to our wireless carriers that will require a phase 2 wireless service that will be field testing each tower in Nowata County. And he said that's something that you have to incorporate in your budget costs too. And I said, that I was unaware of. Well, we did talk to you about that at a meeting. I remember very clearly that was mentioned. I said, I'm glad you remember that because I don't. And I didn't receive no documentation on this is some of the requirements that we have to do. So I'm looking at that. And I said, well, at this point, I'm saying, okay, fine. We're just going to move forward in getting what we need to get our project moving. So putting the budget together and putting a cost and finding what the costs are, the real costs, is what we have to do to pull this off. And then at that point, he had said, well, right now, because of these additional costs that are being incorporated, Rogers County is looking very favorable and it's very competitive for you. So you ought to keep that in consideration.
Negative.
All right, this is it. You know, about that time, I said, very good. I will bring this forth to our committee and let everybody listen. Any comments?
This committee is going to have to test the...
No, well, this committee won't have, we'll have to oversee it. So we will hire, a lot of this is...
but these towers belong to, well, they may belong to a private citizen, but they're used by the cell phone companies.
And it's the cell phone companies will, there's people out there that, like say, dispatcher, I know this is being done in Coffeyville, where he's going out into the county where the towers are, and they're buzzing them, they're calling in a call to verify that this message is going in.
Through that tower?
Through that tower.
And they can tell that?
Okay. They can tell that. So
okay,
they're testing the tower's ability to receive the 911 calls. And I know for right now, I don't know how many towers are by Verizon. I don't know how many towers are by AT&T, but US Cellular has 5.
Okay.
They have 5 towers in the county.
Okay.
And so the towers have to be evaluated and verified. That is also being done. And this is a project that we have to oversee done.
Not the phone companies.
Huh?
Not the phone companies. You all have to.
We have to see it being done, that this is verifiable and functional.
Okay.
And it may be from the dispatch center that, well, maybe right now that's being done by the Coffeyville Dispatch Center, verifying in their county their cell towers.
And we'll have to do it down here, you're saying?
And we'll have to do it down here to be in compliant with everything else.
Who's the individual that's said all this? Lance or who?
Daryl. But then Daryl is a step down from Lance.
And this is the state.
This is a regional, 911 regional coordinator.
Thank you.
So he's not the one that was here with the paper that said, if you follow this, and here's what all you got left to do.
Yes, he was part of him. That was the other fellow. Lance was here and Daryl was here, along with Vicki.
That's what I don't like about this. I think there's a lot of buddy-buddy stuff going on, and I feel like they're real close with down
You know
south.
what it is.
They're
It's
real close down
self-explanatory.
south.
Because he just made the statement that he said, quote, "You're getting close to the same cost
Yeah.
as you're coming out of Rogers County." Now, where in the devil did that come from?
Yeah, I don't like it at all.
That's all right.
The Rogers County representative then was misleading in her statement. She said, we have next gen 911 down there.
Well, that was like I'm saying, I don't know to the extent, what she clarified, she said, well, we can text message. And according, and then I got on the phone right with Bruce Hardesty, our representative for the RNS Digital, and he said, that's right, no, there is nothing. There is nothing in Tulsa area. And actually, I was at a meeting where they were discussing going out for bids, to get the bids for the job. So, I don't know what's going on there.
See, this burns my butt because they're bucking us on a system that is way far advanced from any Oklahoma system. It is
Well, what we
20
gotta
miles.
do-
It's 20 miles away.
Yeah.
Yeah, the bottom scenario of it is, this board has to come united and say, we're gonna buck it to the end. Because did you not say that they did say they would give us an extension?
Yes, I have an extension because, thanks to John, John was able to talk with Daryl. Daryl saying that this is what we're doing, and John is working on in the backside of why we haven't received the landline fees from AT&T. That is the bottom line that John's involved in. He's been very helpful in pulling that off, and at the same time, he got involved with where we're at with calls and in the 911 services. So,
Well, I'm for, unless you throw it, because you're doing 85% more than us, we're trying to back you and do what we can. But if you're willing to continue on and work with this, I tell them, bite me and let's see.
You know, to me-
I want to see it in black and white.
see what they're
First.
looking at. They're looking at the numbers that I put down in here.
Yeah, I understand
And
that.
then
I
they
looked
look
that up after you talked to me.
and they look at the numbers and they says, well, you have these costs that you haven't accounted for. And I says, no, because we don't need those costs because we have the Izzy Net.
Yeah.
And that's when he said, there is no Izzy Net. And it's like, whoa, okay.
So were the north end 911 calls that are already going to Caulfield and have been for years, are those not next gen 911
No,
calls?
they are
going
not
into
next
Caulfield?
gen. They are basic 911 calls. Basic.
Well,
Because I asked him,
E911.
huh?
E911.
They're, well, I don't think they qualify for E911 because they don't pop up on their map as an address location. Okay?
It does, but.
It doesn't give them a dot. I
No,
think.
that's the next gen, but we will be next gen soon. They're working on it.
The north end 911 calls?
Yes.
I know.
Well, how can half the county be next gen
No,
911 and?
There's another deal. And just to say that, to clarify what Wade's saying, they don't have the mapping to do the next generation 911 in Oklahoma. Kansas is not going to pay for that. And there's mapping that has to be done.
We're paying for that, correct?
We're-
The entire county.
The entire county is going to be next generation 911 with the mapping, because the mapping that we're doing is 911 compatible. It has all the documentation there. However, from the county point of view, today, even though Coffeyville, and I don't know what the technology is, if it will allow that to happen or not. I don't know what the tandem lines are qualified to do as far as pinpoint location. They should be allowed to do location addressing, but I don't know. They're not going to do video, and they're not going to do audio recording. That's what you get with Next Generation. That's not going to happen with that technology that's sitting in Tulsa right now. That's Next Generation, the whole pack. The whole pack. John turned around, he said, well, why aren't you having you talk to Washington? Washington was not on the table. Washington didn't want to be a consideration. And John said, he knows the sheriff.
Yep, I did talk to Scott Owen. Scott told me we needed to talk to Silvers. He's now over the dispatch. So instead of calling them, I called one of the city councilmen, who I know real well, and told him, and he said, well, that sounds like a good idea. And I said, well, he wanted to set up a meeting, and I said, no, don't do anything until after you guys decided what you wanted to do, even if you wanted to do it. And then if you do, I'll set it up where you can, and I can go down there, and
Sure.
you guys can do whatever it is you need to do to talk to him about it. But I did get told this by Scott Owen. He said they are trying to decrease their 911 staff to a bare bones thing. So he goes, I don't know how much luck you'll have. I'm thinking it doesn't hurt to try.
It don't hurt me. I just said, but I don't know where we're at with Kansas right now, because from what Kansas, when I communicated with Chad as to what my findings and what was being required, they want additional information. And Chad, he got a cold shot of water too, because he was unaware. And he said, I will start putting out communications and emails, and he sent me, included me on a copy as to what he sent, which is just perfect, because he said, the technology that we thought we had is not there, so we need to see exactly what's going on. Because what Kansas is doing, because of the Next Generation, because their technology is at the forefront, they're moving away from the tandem lines that are right now in Tulsa, that we would have to be. So, and he said that would be a case of where Coffeyville would have to maintain this type of connection or connectivity, and don't know if they want to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know at that point, because this may be a bigger bubble than they thought. They thought it was going to be 1, 2, 3. They had Izzy Net. They were talking about it. Well, all they've been doing these years has been talking about it and not doing anything about it.
Something to think about for Washington County, because we had talked to them before and they wasn't interested. Craig County.
Well, I'd heard
Washington
about
County.
that.
Yeah.
I'd heard about that.
But something to think about is, would they have to reduce the size of their 911 staff if they're getting our monies?
Well, that's one of the things I spoke with them about, and briefly. But as I said, I don't, want to overstep anything.
Sure, I
And I didn't
understand.
know.
I just asked you to open a door. If you can
Yeah.
open a door, I think I would listen, not make a decision, but I definitely would.
Yeah, they may say, slam it in our face, and they then again may say, hey, we need to take a look at this. Our 911 calls, I don't think, are near the volume that Washington County's is.
10,
Yeah.
if that.
And so, it wouldn't be that much more workload on them. And we'll just kind of see. But anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. Trevor Dorsey is who I talked to. And Trevor's my city councilman. Trevor's the president of the bank over
President
here.
of Regent Bank.
Yeah, so the fact that Trevor's in both places worked out really well. And
He's a good guy to
yeah,
talk to.
so I told Trevor just to hold off until we figured out what we were going to do, what you guys wanted to do.
Jerome, you said you'd received an extension.
Yes,
What's the new date?
There isn't one yet.
I had an end date of March 22nd, and now it's been extended indefinitely.
They just said indefinitely, no time.
They just said no timeline going, because it's a matter of getting the numbers in. It's a numbers game more than
So
anything.
do you feel the state's putting obstacles in your way to pressure you to go through Rogers County?
I don't want to say they're obstacles, I just say they're moving the goalpost. See, and that's my ticket that I'm really apprehensive on Claremore. Because Claremore, when Claremore made the presentation, the second thing that came out was what they're going to acquire City of Nowata's fees for services that are being provided currently that go to the Sheriff's Department. And then there was an indication or a hint that other communities may have to pay for these services
On top of the 911 fees.
on top of the 911 fees.
And there ain't no way that the rural fire department's gonna do
And
that.
I'm just going to say, and that was what was a concerning issue. Coffeyville made the presentation of saying, hey, we need the 911 fees, that's up.
That's it.
I don't want anything more out of the county. Okay? Now, what they did include was that we had some initial startup fees that needed to be addressed. And so then it's a matter, okay, these startup fees we need to take. And then like the database needed to come into the system. Now I've got fees that I have to pay AT&T. I may have fees that got talk with Total, Broadcom. I have tariffs that go out of state and come into Kansas, and Kansas can tag on some other fees. Okay? So these are fees that are down the road that we just haven't got. Now and then, of course, then I've got this other service. We'll have to hire a service to test out the cell towers to do that. So that's another project fee that's going to be coming involved. So. And it may not be cheap. You know, nobody's working like for the trust authority here. Everybody's getting paid excessive money, maybe too much money is what I'm thinking.
I'll second what Rocky said. I think we ought to continue in the direction we're going, but at the same time, go ahead and check with Washington County and just see as a backup plan.
But anyway, I think we're moving right. It's the best I can do.
I think
That's
we're
what I'm
moving
saying,
right.
you know, and I'm sitting there trying to ponder on how the best course of action, and the best course of action is have a backup plan.
All right.
All right, that's all I got on my side to say what I wanted to say.
So we're done with 4.
I do have the information on the AT&T
What you have?
deal. The guy I spoke to is named Jason Constable. Now, how I did that is I called the Julie Daniels. I had her get me the head person over at the Corporation Commission. I had a nice chat with them, and they contacted AT&T, and then they called me, and Jason Constable's the guy in charge of that. He told me that the percentages were, in 1992, it was 3%. In April the 11th of 2019, it changed to 5%. In November of 2019, it changed to 13%. And I said, well, we need an accounting back to the beginning on what, because we have received no money at all. And he told me that he would get on it and get back with me. I've got his cell number.
Okay.
And, that he's going to get on it, and hopefully we'll get this thing done, and then they'll start sending us a monthly check for the landline fees. Yeah, it changed to 13%.
13%.
Yeah, and those are numbers he gave me, and I was like, oh, yeah.
We could build and sustain a 911
Let's tear the courthouse down and build a new one with 911 in there.
and
That
jail.
money.
Well, just a conversation, jail-wise, yes, we can blend the two together. If a jail comes in, a new jail or something, it should include a 911 dispatch center. But we got, our money's in the bank, and we've generated, on this one, interest accumulated was $31.48.
So how much you got in the bank?
What we have in the bank is $240,067.15.
This is the money that came over from
This-
Grand
this is-
Gateway.
this
And we
is-
only
no,
made
no, no.
$31.
This is the money that came over from the county.
Oh.
We transferred the money from the county that was in the county,
Oh,
now it's in the
okay.
trust authority. The money that's at Grand Gateway, still at Grand Gateway, because I don't have no checkbook.
Okay.
So this is the first extra money it got, that it let it sit there. If any checks I need written, I can have them gone through the Grand Gateway process for years.
Where'd that money come from?
That was when the state set up the 911. They were .2 person, and they were collecting the fees until then the county started collecting the fees. And then that money just got froze there, and then the county picked up.
But the county didn't have a 911 facility, so the state made Grand Gateway
Maybe
hold on to it.
hold on to it until something else came up because they just did that. Okay, item number 9. It's
You bet you I'm making a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.